My name is Emily Boyd. I am 16 years old from Vancouver, Washington, and I am part of Mercy Corps' Global Citizen Corps program. How have the events of 9/11 impacted your everyday life, directly or indirectly? The events of 9/11 have impacted my life in many ways, from the way I see people interacting with each other, to the underlying fear that something like 9/11 could occur again, and just like before, happen with no warning whatsoever. I've been used to seeing horrible things like this happen in other countries, but it really changed how I thought, knowing that this could happen at home as well. For me, this all raises the fear of the unknown, and how we can never truly predict what the future will hold for us. Your generation has sometimes been referred to as the 9/11 generation. What does that mean to you? Do you agree with that label? How do you think 9/11 has impacted your generation? I do not agree with being referred to as the 9/11 generation, mainly because 9/11 was such a dark spot in our nation's history. I feel like being called the 9/11 generation casts a dark light on our generation as a whole. I feel my generation has been greatly impacted by the events that took place on 9/11, from the way we interact with each other now to our ways of thinking. Though many of the effects may not be seen on the surface level, 9/11 truly has affected our lives in many ways. What do you remember most from the day September 11th, 2001, and from the weeks and months that followed? I was only in first grade on September 11th, 2001, so my memory of that day is fairly limited. I remember hearing the fear in my parents' voices as I got ready for school that day and as they discussed what had been taking place. They were trying to keep my brother and I from hearing what they were saying and from finding out what was going on at the time. I do remember hearing my dad call my mother's name and then telling her that the nation was under attack. That was the first time I ever felt the fear that day, and knowing something was truly wrong, hearing the fear in their voices as they watched the television and talked about what was going on. That day and the weeks that followed, there was a kind of eerie silence at school and at home with my parents. And even though I didn't fully understand what had happened at the time, I knew that we had just bared witness to a horrific event and something that would remain in our nation's history forever. Many critics say the human costs of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were borne by just a few. Should there be a national service requirement for all young Americans? I don't believe that there should be a national service requirement for all young Americans. I believe that everyone has a unique gift that could be utilized to help the nation in other ways, more than just giving our time. There are other ways people help on a daily basis, and young American skills could be put to use doing those things, as well as those who choose to give time in our service. How would you describe the current relations between Muslims and non-Muslims in the United States? I myself never really witnessed the discriminations that took place against Muslims in the United States after 9/11, though I do know that there were many events that took place. I feel that those discriminatory actions by non-Muslims against Muslim Americans are less than they were before, and I truly hope that all tension can be alleviated between the two sides and that we can come to peace very soon.